How are you doing today? So glad you guys can join me. I am super excited about what we're going to be talking about today, what I'll be talking with you about today. So, thanks for joining me. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And give me just another minute, and we're going to start the show. Yeah. So, welcome, guys. Welcome back. I am Kathleen, your conscious mind coach. Thank you for joining me on the show today. If you're watching the replay, thank you. If you're on YouTube, thank you. No matter how you see this or when you see this, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for watching the Conscious Hour. This is the Conscious Hour with Kathleen, your conscious coach. Just want you to know that I am chosen. I'm an educator, an author, speaker, and a writer. So thank you for joining me for the Conscious Hour. Yay! What is it, Tuesday? I forget the days of the week. We at home all the time. But let's get into what we're going to be talking about today. And so basically, um, we'll be talking about returning to the throne. This is super important to me. Returning to the throne is all about Black empowerment. And when I say Black empowerment, I don't mean just words or feeling some type of way. I don't even really mean being active in terms of social, well, I do mean being active in terms of social reform, but I'm talking about going a little deeper and doing a little more internal work that we need to do for ourselves, right? And so returning to the throne is all about taking care of business at home and making sure your family is the strong family unit that you need your family to be. Okay. So that's what this is all about because guys, we can have a million marches and we can do a million things. But the difference is who are we at our core? At the core of being Black in a Black community, the question still is who are we? And so it's all, when I say returning to the throne, that's what returning to the throne is all about. It's about going back and understanding who we are as a people. And so let's get into it. And I kind of, I'm not breaking it all the way down, but I'm kind of breaking it down into small little morsels, so we can kind of chew on some of the things I believe will help us elevate our conscious mind and become the type of individuals that we need to be. Now, when I say elevate your conscious mind, I am not talking about some far fetched idea where we're going to, unpeel all the layers of your life, go back and do a whole, chronological sequence of historical events. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just some basic grassroots efforts that we can make within our homes that could actually change the projection of where the black race and black culture will be in the next couple of years. I'm not talking about something way far stretch. I'm talking about some changes and some conscious mind development that you can do at home that will help to elevate your family, right? And then once you're elevated, you're ready to elevate somebody else, and you're also ready to contribute to society, right? You're also ready to kind of step into the role of sharing your knowledge with the next person. And that's really where I want us to be. Okay. So let's see, where do I want to start? So basically, it's time for us to restore the Black family. And so we're going to talk about a little bit about where we are versus where we should be. And now I don't want anyone to take offense, okay? Because there's not anything that I'm going to say that I personally haven't been a victim of in terms of being a Black American. So if I talk about single parent status, just know I had all three of my kids when I was a teenager. I was a single mother. I grew up in the projects. I literally had to dig for cans in the city dump. We were very poor. I felt the pressures of being in a gang when I was young. So like it's like nothing I'm gonna say that should offend you because I'm from that stock. You feel me? Like I'm from that grain. I also had the privilege of growing up in a privileged home somewhat where my father was able to earn a decent income. And so we were at one point able to walk into various stores, had credit cards or credit. And so I kind of know a little bit about both ends of the stick, if you will, which I think really makes me a great person to do this work, right? That's what I think. I think it just puts me right there where I need to be. So I'm not a person who can judge you, right? How can I judge you? And I've literally walked in your shoes. So, and so let's get into time to restore the Black family. So what's wrong with the Black family? You know what I'm saying? What's wrong with us? Why do we even need to be restored? So let's look at it just from the perspective of where we are in terms of finances. Now, I'm not going to go deep. You won't need a class. Look, you educated people out there. I am not about to give these people a whole um, synopsis or a detail of events and all that stuff. We're just gonna keep it on the surface. So where are we at the black as a Black family? Well, we do know that there is a wealth gap. Wealth gap means that we are earning way less money. We're more likely unemployed. We're not securing loans for businesses. We don't own a home or any property. We're kind of day to day living folk. You know what I mean? We're kind of just surviving and we're in the day to day of it all, in the thick of it. Whereas Caucasians or the majority race, which is the Caucasian race or the white people, or however you want to term it, they're able to secure loans, start businesses, go to school, buy a home, own property, start a business, all those kinds of things. So where we are on the opposite end of wealth as a race. Now, does that mean that all Black people are poor? No, don't be ridiculous. There's some people who are Black that own property in New York. They own higher end property. There are some Black people who are billionaires and millionaires, and not all of them are rappers or performers or actors. There are people who have degrees. There are Black doctors, Black neuro scientists, or whatever you want to call them, epidemiologists. It's all kinds of Black people out there, engineers who own land, who are investors, and they do have the power of wealth on their side. However, because of the huge dynamic, the broad spectrum of where we fall in the economy, some of us are quite behind, which as a race makes the race have this huge disparity in wealth. So where are we? We are undereducated. We are uneducated. We are incarcerated more than any other race on the planet. That's just the truth. We are more likely to have a child when we're a teen, more likely to be involved in sexual activity, more likely to have STDs, more likely to need or want or get an abortion, more likely to be in the juvenile system, more likely to be in the court system, more likely to suffer, to have childhood trauma. And so these are some of the things that are real and are reality for Black people. Less likely to have a high paying job, more likely, like I said, to just be in that day to day struggle. So that is where we are. Right now, uh, we're in a double crisis, right? Because we have the pandemic, which we're all experiencing, but Black people are more of the essential workers, correct? So that means more of us, because we do have low paying jobs and are on the day to day trying to survive out here, more of us are vulnerable to catching COVID 19 because we are classified as essential workers. Going along with COVID 19, where are we? We are, as far as health goes, we're more likely to have high blood pressure, heart disease, all types of things like that. So let's be real about where we are. In Cincinnati, I have two wonderful friends in Cincinnati who called me and was like, Kathleen, we are in a crisis right now. There have been so many shootings and so much death in Cincinnati. And I'm like, for real? Now, it was a little rough when I was living up there about, it's been 3 years now. And so, much like Chicago, much like St. Louis, much like the little small town I grew up in called Earl, Arkansas, was bad at one time. Much like the city I grew up in called West Memphis, Arkansas, at one time. You know, we tend to see this violence, this poverty, this experience in the Black community. Not to say that it is not present in other communities. That's not what I'm saying. My focus is the Black community. So I'm just keeping it real about where we are, right? Not to put us down, but this is about returning to the throne. And I believe, I believe we're on the right track as because we're becoming consciously aware of where we are. We're also becoming consciously aware of racism and how it has really played a part in our lives and how we have suffered because of it, right? A lot of things we don't pay attention to, or we don't literally like put it on a scale. Oh, I didn't have no intention on doing this, but I am an educator. So sometimes I like to do visuals for people. Um, so anyway, so we don't put it on the scale, but if we look into it, well, that's not a great little picture there. I'll do it like this, so maybe you guys can get what I'm saying. So if we look into it in terms of our behavior and things that we do, how do we always end up uh, on this end, right? Where we experience poverty, childhood trauma, lack, less education. So I need a better board. So this is what it looks like for Black people. We're all here, right? All, what is it, 37 million Black people in America or something like that. So in America, there's about 47 or 37 million Black people in America. Somehow we always get into this funnel, right? And I'm just talking about where we are now. I'm not talking about the fact that, well, I am talking about the fact that we literally have the power to fix us. So let me just show you this. So we're all Black. So how do we all manage as a race? Not all of us, but a lot of us. How do we all manage to fall into the funnel? And I actually have a lesson called the Black Funnel that I'm gonna Once I get all the graphics done, which it won't be nothing spectacular. It's just gonna be the truth. Put on a digital format so you can watch it on YouTube. But I do have the black funnel that I'm still working on. Been working on it for years. It's simple. But anyway, we end up falling into this funnel. And as we go down through this funnel, because we have children too early, we start having sex too early, we are less educated, we end up with childhood trauma, less education, lack, and poverty. And that's what I'm saying. That's the reality, right? That's where we are right now. Not just read, but I read the Guttmacher report from 2019. And in that report, it said that African American African American high school students are more likely to be involved in sexual activity, or they were more involved in sexual activity, and in high school, out of all races, the black community was number one. Hispanic and white people were number two at about 35%. Black people were like 54%, or 54%, I think, was the dudes, black males. And then I think 47 or 48% was black female. And then for Hispanics and white, I think whites were at 39% and Hispanics were at 38%. Native Americans were at 23%, and Asians were at 10% of high school students actually having sex. And so again, if I showed you that picture of the funnel again, those are the types of behavior that ends up having us in this funnel where we end up right back down here at the bottom again. Now that's on top of racism, right? That's on top of the fact that we have to deal with systemic racism, which, they're not giving you a promotion on a job, or they won't even hire you for a specific job. They're not paying you what they're paying the white person who sits right next to you. So you have all of that in combination coming against you as a black person. And that's just real. And every part, whether you realize it or not, every part of what they call themselves giving you is actually a attribute, or a negative contribution to you ending up back in the funnel. And like I said, I can't talk about anybody because I was a single parent. Look, I lived in the hood. I grew up in the projects, or you name it. I'm not the one to put my mouth on nobody like that. That can never happen. So understand the place that I'm coming from is a place of love and education. That's it. Like, I have no other fight in this but that. And so one of the things when I was young and I had my kids early, just telling the truth, well, I ain't gonna get into the details of that, but I had them early. So here's the thing: when I went to uh, the welfare office did not assist me from day one. They did not assist me with what I needed at the time. What I needed at the time was assistance because I had been raped and impregnated. They did not help me with that. No part of the system helped me with that. And then they tried to give me welfare, and I had to report, and I had to do all of this. Mind you, I'm 13. I'm 14 years old at this time. And so it was just like, what? I just want to go to school. Like, I'm just a kid. I'm like, I just want to go to school. But they didn't even assist me with that. Back then, they didn't have vouchers, so you could put your kids in a daycare and continue to go to school and all that stuff. And so she was like, well, we can give you a check, but you're going to have to do X, Y, Z, and da da da. I was like, forget it. I don't even want a check. I was 14, guys. 14. And then I had the baby. I was 15. They was like, well, in order for you to get this check in food stamps, you got to do X, Y, Z. I was like, I'm not going to do it. Like, I don't want the check. I literally hated welfare. I hated welfare. For some reason, I just hated welfare. And I think I hated it because I lived in the projects. And so everybody around me was on welfare, right? Because you live in a project, so everybody's low income, so everybody's getting food stamps, housing assistance, because you know your rent is like $20 or something, $120, I don't know. And so I did not want that because I did not want to end up staying in the hood. Like I didn't want that to be my life whatsoever. And so I guess in my mind, I was like, I don't want anything from you guys because you guys trap people. I'm like, you guys trap people. And so, at 15 years old, I started my first business, which was actually cleaning. I was an entrepreneur at 15 years old. And I started doing hair. So I would do people hair before school, on the weekend, all that stuff, make me a little $5, put in jerry curls and stuff. I was hustling. I was doing my thing. Um, 40 years later, we are telling the same story. Like legit, there are thousands of young ladies who can legit switch chairs with me right now and tell the same story about how they had to hustle, they're doing hair, because basically they're trying to survive. 40 years later, we are still in the same place. Not all of us, but too many of us. And so, as a race and as a people, it's like, how do we start changing this, right? So it's how do we going about reestablishing our bloodline, and how do we reconnect with family first, right? So we just talked about where we are, what we're experiencing, what that looks like, but how do we reestablish our bloodline and reconnect to our with our family first? So first of all, you have to know that everything that I just mentioned is a part of dysfunctional behavior. So we do have racism, systemic racism, which plays a huge part in how we can sometimes choose options that actually kind of put us in the trap or keep us in dysfunctional mode. Um, and so, how do we reestablish our bloodline? Now, these are going to be, for some of you guys, the things I'm about to say are going to be hard things because you're going to look at it like, let me just say what I'm going to say. We have to start by reestablishing how we exist as families. That's number one. Because if we reestablish how we exist as family, well, as a default, as a consequence of that, we reestablish our communities and we make them strong again. So, how do we do that? We have to realize how not to fall into this funnel system, which is actually racism. There's so many parts of this, guys. I don't have time to explain everything, but how do we stay out of this funnel system, which seems to capture us and bring us right back into poverty, poor health, lack, and all of that? Well, it starts right at home with your family. So, what I would like for you to do is to start by creating lasting bonds in your family. Start by setting expectations within your family. Start by saying and knowing that it's not okay to have sex when you're early, to have sex when you're in high school, to have babies when you're in high school, to have babies before you have a college degree. These are things that we don't talk about because for some reason we've been doing it for so long, having single parent homes and things like that. We've been doing it for so long that it seems like it's normal. It seems like it's normal to us that, hey, my daughter got pregnant. Well, how old is she? She's 16 years old. Well, don't worry about it. She'll be okay. How do I know she'll be okay? Because I was okay. I finished high school. I got me a job. I ended up going back to college. I'm doing okay. That's not a prescription for success. That is an introduction or a cycle of what is called dysfunction. And I know we don't talk about that a lot. I know we don't talk about going to therapy a lot. I know we don't talk about healing for real a lot. But we really, really need to. And this is what we have to do. Now, I want to show you this young lady. I'm going to share with you what she said. I hope everybody is listening to what's being said today because there's a lot of confusion and So here's the thing. We can talk about um, we can talk about. I'll jump to this for right now, just because I want to bring this all together. We can talk about why are our children being murdered in the streets, and what is black on black crime. We can talk about that. We can talk about the murder in the streets. We can talk about, how sad it is. And, my family's been a victim of gun violence. My family has been a victim of gang activity. I have a brother who is deceased, 16 years old, truly had a promising future, very smart, very bright. Um, I literally had a conversation with him um, in the months and weeks, upcoming to his death, where I just told him literally, like, you can't hang around these people, you can't be around these people, even if it's kin folks, you cannot be around them because it's going to lead where it's going to lead, guys. You know, death or jail, grave or jail. That's where it leads to. And so I had this conversation with him, and he was pulling out and he was pulling back. But the only thing about the streets, the only thing about society is that there it's always on a hunt for blood. Like it's always like the devil himself is always on the hunt for blood. And so we have to realize what's happening in our community and how all of this behavior puts us right back in that funnel that I showed you earlier. So when we talk about why are children being murdered in the streets and why is there black on black crime, we have to start being realistic about what we don't have in the black community. We don't have a high percentage of fathers in the home. We do not have a high percentage of healthy marriages in the black community. Now that's just real. That's just facts. Now, like I said, a lot of that is the residual effects of racism, which racism is not over. Racism is very real. But the part that we have to realize is how we have to do what? Manage in our homes. Because if we can figure that part out, how to manage in our homes, then we can start, if we start dominating in that area, then things like this right here, where children are being murdered in the streets, things like this would decrease. Why? Because they don't have the players out there to play with, to bring us down. Our sons and daughters won't be out there like that. I said something the other day, which I said, if you really want the murder to stop in the streets and all the violence, why don't some of the dads out there pick up the phone and call your kids? Because this is a trickle down effect of all that we experience as black people, recycling toxic relationships, unhealthy situations, not being married, not having two parents in the home. You're still going to experience a manifestation of whatever you do. It's going to manifest. So we got to start working at the core of our families so that we can manifest what we want to see, not what they have done by design with welfare, no jobs, racism, unemployment, discrimination, all of that, but what we want to manifest. That has to start at the core of our family. It has to start in our homes, and then it grows out. And they can't stop that. There's no fire to put that fire out if we can work on the core of our families and restoring the black family. So I'm going to show you this clip and let you see what she says. Because when I said,
I hope everybody is listening to what's being said today, because there's a lot of confusion and distractions from getting us
let's see.
to focus on our race, our community, and our goals. Race first is simply doing whatever is beneficial to us economically, mentally, socially, spiritually, morally. We shouldn't be afraid of that. That shouldn't embarrass us. That shouldn't make us feel shame. Race First is building Black businesses because we have to hire our people. Race First is building schools because we have to teach our children who we are and what their responsibilities are to their community. Race First is building all the institutions to give us freedom from this country. But since this is an accountability moment, this is an in-house moment, I want to be really clear. None of those things are more important than the unity of Black men and Black women. None of those things are more important than how you relate to a Black man and a Black woman. How a husband relates to his wife, how a girlfriend relates to his boyfriend, how a sister relates to another sister, how the community relates to each other. None of those things are important. We can't say we race first if most of our households are ran by single mothers. That's right. Oh. We can't say we race first if we're recklessly having sex and using abortions and birth control pills to cover up our mistakes. We can't say we race first if we're drugging ourselves and using alcohol to avoid our responsibilities. We cannot say we race first if so many of our women are being molested, are being raped, are being touched. Where is the protection? Where is the protection? We can't say we race first if we're in and out of relationships trying to find the conscious Nicki Minaj or the revolutionary millionaire. It's not happening. Right now, there's too much division between us as Black men and Black women. We're harming each other, we're disrespecting one another, we're traumatizing each other, we're embarrassing each other.
Okay, guys.
We have to begin to do the work of healing ourselves.
Right. This is, by the way, Tendea_Tay. So it's TENDEA_TA. I was super, super excited to literally oh, hi guys. Sorry, I just jumped on the chat. I can see. Hey, beautiful lady. Hey, Dave. No one can judge nor should be offended by your truth. God bless you. Thank you. And I agree. So listen, here's the thing. What she just said, I was jumping on chat to let you know chat was opening to share. So let me share her. She's on Instagram. TENDEA _TA. And this is her IG handle. Let's see. Welcome, 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 you guys. One of the things, yeah, and so we're talking about reestablishing our bloodline as Black people and how to reconnect to family first. What she just said is something I say all the time because you, at some point, you have to realize that the struggle is also internal, right? We got all this external stuff to deal with. We got racism. We do have police shooting our Black men. We have all of that. But then there's still some internal work that we need to do, right? There's still some rebuilding and restructuring that we need to do as Black families. That's just the truth. Now, I can use my own family, for example. By the way, my mom and dad and I, we all have great relationships now. So don't waste your time. We're good. But back in the day, when my father left my mom or they divorced, I can't speak on whatever happened to them at that moment in time. But I can speak on the fact of where it left us as children. So my father at the time, believe it or not, in the 70s, was pulling about $3,000 to $5,000 a week as a construction manager. God gave him a gift; he could do blueprint off the top of his dome, some kind of way, and so people would use him to utilize his skills to do blueprints. And he was building homes from the ground up. He traveled between states, and he was good at what he did. His father owned land, and that land was passed down to him. And he had built our house from the ground up on our own land, which was 21 acres, had a little lake in the back and all that good stuff. So, like I said earlier, I can kind of share from two sides of the coin because I've been poor and I've had, right? And so, at any rate, we lived a pretty decent life at one point in time. And he was our father. He came home every night. We had nice new vehicles. Like I said, he built our house from the ground up. So I do have that experience where I was able to walk into, you guys don't remember this, but before Macy's, there was Goldsmiths. And there used to be a store called Lord and Taylor, all that good stuff. High end stores, it's like shopping at Macy's now, but a little more classy, if you will. But anyway, we could literally walk into the store and they would call me, I was a kid, and they would call me Miss Furlow. So, and they would be like, Miss Furlow, can we get you something to drink? Can we do this? Can we do that? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, kid, yeah, I want a Sprite, whatever. And so I do have that experience. But as I got older, my parents got divorced, and he left. But he was very he was into committing adultery. So the marriage was very rocky. At times there was violence in the home, domestic violence, all kinds of things. And so there was sexual trauma in the home, things like that. All kinds of stuff happened. That's pretty much the par for a broken down family. Not saying it has to happen, but I'm just saying there's an 80% chance. If you look at the percentages, everything goes up. More likely to happen where you have sexual trauma, abuse, domestic violence, we're experiencing all these things. On top of that, you're poor, right? You're like really, really poor. Like I remember one time when I wanted a pair of shoes. Now, these weren't, I don't think they were the creme de la creme back then, but I wanted these pair of kangaroos. You guys, I'm old, I'm 47. Chucks was famous back then. Nike, like the regular Nikes, we call it. We look when I got by the time I was a teen, we called them gangster Nikes. I think Ice Cube then was wearing them. But anyway, back in those days, I wanted a pair of Keds, which was the blue label, white shoes with the little blue label on the back, Keds. I want a pair of kangaroos. And at one point I wanted a pair of jelly beans, the little plastic shoes that I guess they back out because my granddaughter just got a pair about a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago. Anyway, little stuff like that I wanted. Couldn't even afford it. Couldn't even have it. Like we had to go fishing to eat. Like if we didn't go to the lake down by our house and fish, we would have been hungry because my dad left and he was doing his thing. He didn't give us the house. We moved to the projects. It was horrible. Very, very horrible. So how do we reconnect? How do we reconnect as a family? How do we go back and recreate these family bonds that we need? How do we redirect our path as Black people? Well, first of all, we have to understand what's against us. And I think we're coming to a place where we understand what's against us now. But now, how do we go back and reconstruct Black families? Well, I have to tell you that we have to start from the bottom just in terms of how we treat each other. We have to start from the bottom in terms of understanding that you cannot just have sex with anybody and produce a child and then that child is just out there. Now I know a lot of us are into co-parenting now, which is good. Please keep co-parenting. Please, please, please. If that's your situation, do not stop. But let's speak to what we do need to stop. And we do need to stop having children out of wedlock. Why? Because it leaves the child in a situation where they don't have access to you, the father and the mother, right? And we all know that that is something that we need because we have to have emotional balance, we have to have mental balance, we have to have financial balance. We also need physical balance. We don't think about that. But you need your dad's hug in the morning. You need to see your dad and mom's face in the morning. You need to see them when you come home from school. What if you're getting bullied? Now you got to go home, call your dad. He live in a whole nother state and have a conversation with him over the phone versus I walked in the door and I knew my dad was going to be there and I could tell my dad, this is what happened to me. Same thing comes with sexual abuse. Same thing comes with all of it. So we have to start making, in essence, better choices. And then we have to start reinventing how we talk to, speak to, communicate with one another. And then we have to elevate, right? We have to start sharing ways on how we can be successful, right? We have to start understanding that you cannot, if you have a baby at 16, right? You just introduce yourself to the struggle story. I call it in my book, I call it the struggle story. I think in all my books, I call it the struggle story. When you have a baby and you're 16, you introduce yourself into the struggle story. In fact, the family has just remanufactured itself as a struggle family. And I like to speak on that because you have to understand one thing. I'm going to use my little dry erase board again because I love it. I'm going to buy me one that doesn't have something on it, though. I'm going to buy me a little plain one. Probably got one. I probably got 50 of them around here somewhere. So let's talk about that for just a second about how it affects you, um, how it affects the home when you have a baby. You're 16, you're 17, you haven't even made it out of school yet. Um, Ooh, I'm not an artist by any means, guys. So here's your home at present state. You got a little money coming in. Let's just say, um, the house got a little money coming in. I don't want to say single parent because I want us to get away from the single parent thing. I'm just gonna say the house got money coming in. I want to say two parents. So the house got money coming in, and then over here, I can't draw, but over here you get pregnant. That's the worst art ever. Plus, I'm kind of doing it backwards. But over here you get pregnant. This is the money that's coming into the house. And this is your house. And whatever you got going on in your house. And then you get pregnant. Soon as that child gets pregnant, she's 16, she's 17, or that dude, your son, got a girl pregnant, right? Because it doesn't matter, because the baby needs support. So as soon as that child gets pregnant, where does this money go? All this money was going to the house. All this money could have been used to purchase a second home that you could have used for rental property. All this money could have been used to pay your house off early and be able to afford to send this child to school to be a doctor instead of being whatever you are. So this say you just went to school and you're LPN or a CNA. Well, what if you had the money to send your child to school to be a doctor versus just being a CNA or LPN or RN, which are all good careers, but as a CNA, are you making as much as an LPN? No. As an LPN, are you making as much as an RN? No. As an RN, are you making as much as a nurse practitioner? No. As a nurse practitioner, are you making as much as a doctor? No. And so all the money that was going to the house now just got divided. Hey, that was a good division sign. And it has to go to, I'm going to draw a smaller divide. It just got divided, and now it has to go to other things like diapers and milk and all this kind of whatever we got going on here. God forbid if you have a child with special needs, that's another struggle. And so we have to start looking at what are we teaching in our homes? What are we reinforcing in our homes? What are the behaviors in our home? What is the dysfunction in the home? And then start to reconnect the family in a healthy way, how it's supposed to actually be. Okay? So, give me a second. And when we create this basic foundation of how a family is supposed to behave, how you are supposed to wait, and the reason why you wait to have sex is because really you can't afford to have sex. Sex leads to STDs. Let's talk about the mental part of having sex, right? I mean, once you start having sex, you're mentally just all over the place, right? And you once you start having sex, you always trying to find somebody to connect with because you want that feeling all the time. And so we have to gain a basic foundation in our community. So let me show you something. Hopefully it won't take up all of my screen, but let me show you something. As we're moving into this year and we're trying to reconnect our families and we're trying to create this basic foundation uh, to gain our communities back, you're going to have to do some work, right? You're going to have to go in and do some actual work. Now, I know in our community, there are things that we really truly love and identify with. In returning to the throne, our identity has to be strong. Right now, we can identify with the crowns, right? A lot of ladies see me with my headdress on and they go, "Oh, I wish I could I wish I could do my headdress like that." And this is African fabric too, and it wraps nicely. We see the chairs. You see how people take those photos with those big old throne looking chairs, and we love that as Black people, don't we? It feels like it's us, right? We have a sense that somehow these things belong to us. The crown, the chairs, the chains. Look, I could easily have on 5 chains right now. Real talk. Anybody know me? No, I love a little bling. Look, I could easily have my fingers stacked with chains. I could have both wrists stacked with gold bangles and chains. My earrings could be dripping right now with gold earrings, big hoop earrings, big earrings. My neck could be dripping right now with gold chains, small or large. I love that stuff. I don't know what it is, but I want it. I want it. I don't know what it is, but I want it. I want it really bad. It's some of the stuff I really, really love. And so we have a sense of who we are in terms of trying to identify who we are. We know we love nice things. We know it. It's inherently a part of us. We love the bling. We love the gold chains, the earrings. We love what we love because it's a part of our identity. However, it can't be that we love the feeling and the look of a thing, but we're not willing to do the work to reestablish our true identity. You understand? It's not enough for you to drape in gold chains, which we see a lot of the rappers do. But before there were rappers, Black people wore gold chains. We wore a lot of gold jewelry. Um, we love certain types of furniture. When we see those chairs, those high throne chairs, we're attracted to those. Something in us lets us know that we should wear a crown on our head, that we are kings and we are queens. It's something in us. It's something in us that's attracted to that pulls us to that. But we can't just falsely identify with that. We have to be the kings and queens that we look at images of. And I don't want to just talk to you about this because me just talking to you about this and you not knowing where to start or where to begin or how to break down the dysfunction in your family and reestablish your bloodline, that's no good. And so I want to introduce you to my book called The Legacy Workbook. We're not used to doing this type of work. We're used to having people help us with welfare, help us with a temporary job, help us with all of these little things. But if we can go back and grab our identity more than stuff, more than just wearing crowns and chains and sitting in chairs, acting like, it's not like we're acting. We just can identify with those things, but we have to take it a step further. The legacy workbook is all about bringing us back to a conscious place of getting our inner core back in terms of being a Black family. And not only being a Black family, but being a strong Black family. So when it comes to reestablishing our bloodline and how to reconnect with the family first, this book is going to help us do that. This book is going to show us how do we manifest change, and we change home, right? If we want to manifest change, if we don't want to just be walking around with gold chains on, but we want to be actual kings and queens, we have to change the experience in our home. We have to change the mentality of our children. We have to change the basic foundation. We have to understand that. That's what we have to do. And I'm just one of those people who I just believe it's our time. You understand? It's our time. It's our time to do what we need to do in order for us to get what we want to get out of life. And I don't care if you live in America, I don't care if you live in Brazil, I don't care where you live, it is our time. And I'm not talking about this is our time, and we're gonna run all over the place and look, I'm for real.
Paired.
I'm talking about
Maximum volume.
Wait a minute, Bluetooth. I'm talking about you understanding that you have to put in some work in your individual homes to manifest what we want to see in our community. This is as we face racism, as we understand racism, as we try to work through this pandemic. This is a good time for us to reestablish our homes, to reestablish what we want to see. This is a good time. This is the Conscious Hour with Kathleen. I do want to thank you for joining me during this live. You can cash at me at the $ KV product if you would like to send a donation. If you would like to purchase the books right now are all $14.99. They're all available on my website at khconsciouscoach.org or khconsciouscoach.com. I'm very serious about somehow getting us to understand the work that we need to do at our core, that we need to do in our homes. I'm just serious about us understanding that we cannot continue the way that we are going, and that in order for us to gain back and reestablish our families and do have a greater experience in our communities, we have to shift. The shift has to be mental. It has to be real. It can't be just prophesying to the wind. We have to know what we need. In a lot of our communities, we don't even know what we need. We don't even know where we are. We don't even know how dysfunctional we are. We haven't even came to grips with how our behavior is affecting us. And so this is the part that I want us to get. That it is our time. That it is time to break away from the curse. And we say the curse like it's a curse, and a lot of it is just a choice. We're making the wrong choices, and it's getting us the wrong results. So let's think about that and do something about that. I am Kathleen Harrod. I am chosen. I'm an educator. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I am a writer. And my purpose is to help us. And I feel very, very strongly about that. Let me reintroduce you to the book. It's called The Legacy Workbook. It's one of my 4 books that we absolutely need in the Black community. Look, I don't like Candace Owens. I hate to even say her name, but one thing she says that is true. The absence of Black fathers in our homes, the number of single parent homes versus 2-parent homes in our community is destroying us. You understand? It's destroying us. And so the Legacy Workbook is all about the restoration of the Black family. The top book here, Hurt People, Help People, is all about helping us understand the sexual violence and trauma that happens in our community. It's all about helping us understand sex trafficking. It's about helping us. You talk about buy from a Black woman, get these books. The next book you see is So You Think You Want to Have Sex. It's all about helping our children navigate this time in their life when they are being pulled on emotionally, physically, sexually, when they're being inundated with sexual innuendo, like sexual, connotations, all these videos, all these songs, all the visuals on YouTube, on every show, sex, sex, sex. Don't you know that trickles down to our children and it infects our seed? So we have to help them navigate through these times. Even though there's a pandemic, people want to see them on chat. They want them to, hey, little girl, show me your boobs, show me in between your legs, show me this, show me that. Hook up with me. I'm coming to this spot. Meet me at this spot. Don't think it stopped. Do not think it has stopped. It has not stopped. So we have to help our children who fall into the cracks and crevices of society that wants to suck them up and feed them into the funnel. And then there's things I wish I knew. Because as a young Black lady, no one ever talked to me about toxic relationships, domestic violence, healthy relationships for that matter. And so all these conversations can be found in this book where we talk about racism, domestic violence, healthy relationships, healthy communication, healthy relationships in terms of friendship, healthy relationships in terms of parents and their children, healthy relationships in terms of dating, healthy relationships in terms of marriage. All are in this book. Good book for mother and daughters. Good book for sister circles. Good books for churches. All of these books need to be in every church. Since Black people believe in God and religion more than any other race on this planet, couple that with these books. And let's turn our communities around. We have to do the work. There's no escape. And this is why I love the word of God so much, where he says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, all these things can be added. But another part of that is having your mind right, casting down imaginations and all these wicked things that come against us. And we have to realize the weapons that are formed against us. So we won't let them prosper. We're letting them prosper in a lot of instances because we're not preparing ourselves for the real world, the real experiences that we're going to have and face in life. And then we don't realize the harm that we're doing to one another. You have to go back and watch my other clip where I talk about it's not just that you had a baby by this woman and left her. Yeah, she's hurt behind that, but she's also hurt because her child is going to come to her and say, where's my dad? The child is going to come to her and say, why isn't my dad at the game or my mom at the game if the mom is out of the picture? There's a lot that goes into that. It's a lot that ends up contributing to that funnel that I showed you earlier. So all of my books in the Conscious Book Collection, that's what they're all about. Bringing us to a place where we understand how to build strong Black families. Because if we don't do that, we can do whatever we want to do, but we're still going to be at the bottom, and we're still going to be suffering, and we're still going to have these struggle stories, and we can run the church. But half the churches, more than half the churches, don't have the right type of information to help elevate our people. We don't even have the right conversations. Most of the members in the church are single parent mothers. Most of the members in the church are 88% women, and most of them are single parent mothers. Most of them have never been in a healthy marriage or had a healthy relationship. Half the pastors are toxic. When you look at ministers like Jamal Bryant, who, thank God, he getting his family together and all that stuff, but had babies in the church, had babies with members. A lot of us do that. It's dysfunctional. It's toxic. It's ungodly. And we have to start teaching at the very core of who we are what is right. Because what is right will preserve us. What is right will have us being landowners and homeowners and having beautiful families. A family that will stand with you through thick and thin. And one of the things I teach in this book, the Legacy Workbook, I teach you what loyalty is. I teach you what trust is. I teach you how to build strong relationships. I teach you how to form lasting bonds. I teach you what trust is, so that we can have strong Black families. We can't keep missing the mark and want to come up gold. It's not going to happen that way. We can't keep ignoring the things that we need to change in the midst of all this chaos that we're going through. So I invite you again to check out my website, to order from the Conscious Book Collection, and you can reach out to me to order as well. You can cash out me as well. Share this video with your friends, with your families, because, guys, I can't tell you enough. It's our time. It's our time. It is our time. It is our time. It is our time. And if we get these few basic pieces in place, nothing can stop us. We go all the way up. But to think you're going to have a strong community and you have 73% single parent homes, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I don't want you living in fairy tale land. It's not going to happen. Again, my name is Kathleen Harriet, and I am your conscious coach. You've been on the Conscious Hour with Kathleen Harriet. I am chosen an educator, author, speaker, and writer. Thank you so much for joining me. I feel like I'm leaving something out, but I don't know what it is. But we are returning to the throne. Have a great day.